Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate everybody registering for today's session because it is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. If you're not familiar, we haven't met in person. My name is Chelsea Lambert. I'm the founder of Lex Tech Review, where we provide education and resources for solo and small firm attorneys to find ways to make their practice more efficient and break themselves from the cycle of solopreneurship, learn how to delegate, and also establish freedom for themselves in their business. So today's presentation, I'm going to be handing over to our guest, Richard James. He is the founder of the Partners Club for Attorneys and also the author of the Attorney's Guide to Personal and Financial Freedom, which is a book. If you have not read it, I actually just recently read it again, and it has so many lessons even for me as I've been, growing my business and so many of the things that I see when I speak to attorneys all over the country. My personal passion and why we organize this type of education is because when things in a solo or a small law firm are, challenging at the office, the lines between work and home get very, very blurry. So Richard's work and his message resonates with me tremendously, not only as an entrepreneur, but also as the child of entrepreneurs growing up who, had to experience when things weren't, rocky at the office, or when, mom and dad have a bad day, how that translates into home life. And so I think the systems and the processes and the methods that Richard has put together and that he's going to share with us today are incredibly powerful and one of the most valuable presentations that we will have on Lex Tech Review all year. So Richard, I really, really appreciate you sharing your time with us and giving us the opportunity to learn from you and learn from all of the amazing experiences and wins that you've been able to achieve with your clients. So I'm going to hand control over to you now.
Well, thank you for that. By the way, you set the bar really high for me, so I appreciate that. I hope I can live up to it for sure. I will do my best. Let's see if we can't share my screen. There we go, and we should be able to have a slideshow. There we are.
There we are. Look at that.
Look at that. It's amazing how the things work out. Hey, folks, listen, I just want to say that the fact that you're partnering with Chelsea and just in her world and consuming the information she provides is a real plus to you. Not only does it speak volumes about what Chelsea is doing in the community, but it also speaks volumes about you as an attorney. You're out there, you're hunting, you're hungry, you're looking for a way to break free from the ties that bind in your law firm and hopefully gain that real clarity and freedom. And today, that's what I really want to do. The title says How to Break the Solo Law Firm Cycle and Establish Financial Freedom for Yourself and Your Business. But before I do, let me stop so I make sure I don't miss this and just say, Chelsea, thanks for having me on today. Anytime I can get in front of entrepreneurial-minded attorneys and share my vision, my goal that you and I both jointly share, it's an exciting day for me. So I really do appreciate you having me here today.
Oh, thank you for everything, Richard. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, so let's keep going. So I'm going to share with you, I'm going to take about 45 minutes-ish, and then I'll have time for questions. I tend to talk at 250 words a minute with occasional gusts up to 500. So if you miss anything, I'm sure we can make sure we get you whatever you need. We'll make ourselves available for questions or Q&A after, if for whatever reason you're watching this in a replay methodology. There's a few things that I want to make sure I cover today. The first is I want to promise you that I'm going to deliver for you this 6-step system that I developed. This is the one that all successful law firms know about, and those firms that struggle and fail to grasp were never told about. Like, this is the secret, right? This is it. This is what, after having built a law firm myself with my own bare hands, this is the secret that has changed the direction of lawyers for all time. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is how to uncover the truth about the performance of your marketing and advertise. I really want to bulletproof you against the lies that those who sell you marketing and advertising services are selling you. So many guys and gals that knock on your door are selling you, swamp juice in a perfume bottle, like my grandmother used to say. And I really want to protect you against them, because having been in that seat, having to hear those pitches, I needed to figure out how to cut through the crap that's out there in the world for legal services for marketing. And then I wanted to show you the math behind how you can acquire 4 clients in 4 weeks. I want to show you how you can take this and use it immediately. And this program and system that I'm going to give you today, that you can acquire 4 new clients in 4 weeks by just changing the math inside of your law firm. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to do algebra. We're talking simple arithmetic here, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about is really, where are you at? Does this feel like you right now? Do you feel like, man, I just don't know if this is what I want to do anymore? I can't get home in time for dinner. I can't take a weekend off. I can't take a vacation without my cell phone and my laptop. It's summertime and my kids are home, and I don't know if I can even spend any time with them. I don't make the kind of money that I feel I deserve after all of this education and this time and this expertise I've poured into becoming a great lawyer. And if I'm getting into my 50s or early 60s and I'm staring retirement in the face, I have no plan for freedom. Is this how you feel? And if it is, I want you to know you're not alone. Many attorneys feel this way. There's 1.2 million attorneys in the United States, and so many of them have this feeling that they are entrepreneurs and they see their law firms as a business, but they don't know how to break free from this way of feeling. Well, today I'm going to share that with you, but I want to kind of just first share with you the journey as I see it. Okay, so this is kind of the journey that as I see it. First is this concept of chaos. That's kind of where we find most attorneys that come into my world. They feel like everything is just chaotic around them. And it usually means that they're in debt. Oftentimes they work 7 days a week. Again, we talked about this. They have no money, no time, no plan, right? And what I want you to know is that there is a natural path from chaos to freedom. And that's kind of what this looks like right now, okay? This natural path from chaos to freedom. So a couple of things I want you to see is, first of all, down the bottom, we're looking at now, where you are right now. And then each line in this kind of growth chart shows about a year. So about 3 years from now, the path is, where do we go from now to 3 years from now? And the idea is, if we do nothing, right? If we are where we are today and continue down the same path and make absolutely no changes in our life or our practice, the chances are pretty good that we won't have a different future. We may even argue we could have a worse future, but at best, we're not going to have a better future. We'll have the same thing. And so if you're in chaos now and you feel like that's where you are, maybe we can get you to the growth stage. Now, incidentally, I've started calling this the insanity stage later on, because growth actually has a positive connotation, but I think it's more like the insanity stage. We're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And so this is where you're kind of living month to month. If you have staff, you're worried about payroll every single time. You still work 6 days a week, and the money that you make is like your draw or maybe your salary, but there's no profit in the business, right? It's not running like a business. It's like you've got a job that happens to have a PLLC that you have your name on. But then as we breach past that page of growth and we move into healthy, this is where we start to see, oh, okay, wait, the staff can run the business. And I only have to really work 5 days a week, and I can take a vacation, and I don't have to work on Saturdays, and I can really make things happen in my business because I can start working on the practice, and I actually have profit. So I get a market-based wage, and I have some profit. And that's a healthy practice, and that's where I really want to get everybody to go towards, because that's the minimum viable for me, is get you to healthy. Ultimately, I want you to get to free, right? Where you've got $1 million in personal wealth. And I don't mean that you bought your house and you live in Silicon Valley and you bought it in 1980 and today it's worth $4 million and somebody'd be willing to tear it down to build a new one. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, well, that's not a bad thing, and I hope that happened to you. What I mean is you've got $1 million liquid laying around that you'll be able to put your hands on at any one given time. Not that that's enough to retire with, but at least that makes you feel like you're on the right path. You can work 3 days a week if you choose. If you want to be the lawyer, you can be the lawyer. If you want to be the business owner, you can be the business owner. If you've got other things you want to do, you can focus on that. And you have got passive income in your business. That means you've got income whether you roll over or roll out of bed in the morning, you make money. And this is what I want for all attorneys who consider themselves entrepreneurial. I want this for you because I have it for me. And I have several members who have achieved this level of freedom. Now, it says that it typically takes somebody who's working really hard at it 3 years. Now, there is a fast track to this, and that's how we do it in about a year. I've seen it happen where attorneys have gone from, where they were in chaos all the way to freedom in a year. Now, I won't tell you that they probably are missing the $1 million in personal wealth, because that typically takes some time to achieve based on profitability. But all the other aspects where they are free, they can work the 3 days a week if they so chose. We can figure out how to get you there in a year, but it takes a tremendous amount of work to accomplish that goal. So let's just start the basics right now. Let's just try to keep it simple. First, let's talk about why should you listen to me? Well, just if you don't know who I am, a quick backstory is that I was teaching lawyers how to do this systems building in their law firm. And one day a lawyer saw me speak and said, "Hey, does this stuff really work?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Prove it." I said, "Okay, what do you have in mind?" He said, "Well, you're in Phoenix. I'm in Phoenix. I'm starting a new firm. I'm breaking away from my partner. You can come try all of your crazy ideas. And if they work, well, you get to tell the world about it. If it doesn't work, well, you get to fail miserably in a public forum." And it was a deal that, it was funny at the time, but my wife and I were in the right place with our kids. And I just said, let's do it. I want to prove this thing out. Let's start a petri dish. So I did. We literally started together. I didn't do it alone. And we shared a desk, kneecap to kneecap, literally one desk in an executive office with $0 in sales. And in just about 2.5 years, we built it to $3.5 million in annual gross sales. And I did that using my systems. Now, the best part of that story isn't the fact that we grew the business to that level of sales, although that's a cool number, and that might be a big number to you or a small number to you. That's irrelevant. What's relevant is that the attorney, was kind of already successful financially before he found me in his partnership. That wasn't why he wanted to break away from his partnership. The partnership was going sideways, but really he couldn't get home in time for dinner. He'd put decorations up for Christmas on Christmas Eve. He never took a vacation ever. And he had the kind of the income side of it, but he had no life. So when we built this, we wanted to do it in a way that he was free. And so the cool thing is he was able to actually achieve that freedom level we talked about in about 18 months. And he was able to take his first month-long vacation. He came back and his business was actually up 25%, and he didn't have to work Saturdays, and he was home every night for dinner. And so that's the real reason why you want to listen to what I have to say, because I've done it with my own 2 bare hands, working as a business manager, building a law firm from the ground up. I guess the other reason why you want to listen to me is because now we've got real evidence. I no longer wonder if this works. This is just a small smattering of the amount of clients we've served through the years. And these are some of their stories, and they may be great to you or not great to you. It's irrelevant. But really, we now have enough social proof that we know that what we teach actually works. I know that the systems that I show you how to implement into your practice works. And the core system that every one of these attorneys have used and I use to build a law firm is the one I'm going to show you today. It's the most important system you can put in your law firm to make sure that you're using. And I'm going to really keep it basic for you today. We're going to dumb it down, not because you need me to dumb it down, but I want you to make it so you can go out and implement it tomorrow. What I love about attorneys on the opposite of the dumb spectrum is that you guys are really, really intelligent. And when you get it, it's so much fun to watch because you just take off. Nothing against real estate agents or plumbers or anybody else, but they don't always have the acumen to grab what I'm saying. Now, the other side of it is sometimes attorneys, you get in your own way because you're so smart. So I want you to make sure, I just want you to take the time and know that for today, I want you to come out with this with a little different attitude. The other thing I want you to know is 60% of the clients that we accomplished or we acquired in that law firm that I built my own bare hands, they were actually people who already said no. So a new lead came in and we called them or they called us and they said, "No, I don't want to set an appointment." Or they set an appointment and they said, "No, I don't want to show up." Or they showed up and then they said, "No, I don't want to retain your firm." And so 60%, this is a huge number, 60% of the new clients we acquired in the last year that I was building that firm, 60% of them came from people who all at one point had said no. So that's a real inside secret as to the system we're going to build here, because this is not about you acquiring more marketing lead sources or generating more leads. A lot of law firms think what they need is more leads. That's just not true. Most times what they need is a better system to convert those leads, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, you may or may not believe me, but for today, I just want to just ask that you momentarily set aside all disbelief and genuine distrust of all things too good to be true. I get it. You're attorneys, you've been trained to think a certain way. But for today, I just want to say, how can we make this work? You know, if you're in a small town or you've got employees that you've had for a long time, you don't think they'll change, or your practice area is somewhat different, you don't think it'll work, just for today, put it aside. Now, oftentimes I do this in front of a live audience, so I'm going to trust that you're going to do this with me right now, because I can't see you or I can't hear you necessarily, but I want to trust that you're going to do this with me. So we're just going to take an oath together, and here's the oath. I know you've taken an oath before, counselor, so imaginary. I'm going to see you envisioning in my head. You're raising your right hand for me right now. Please do that. Raise your right. Even if people are looking at you in your coffee shop, go ahead. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. My business is not different from yours. That's the most important thing I need you to get, is that my business isn't different from yours. Your business isn't different from the lawyer standing or sitting next to you virtually. Yes, you may have different practice areas. Yes, you may be in different geographic situations, but the fundamental things I'm about to talk about today are the same. Okay, so now with that foundation in place, and I hope you took that oath seriously, that you're just going to momentarily set aside any disbelief about what we're going to talk about today, is what you really need is systems. Now, let me just break this down for you so I can define a system. And this is important because anytime I talk about a system, sometimes lawyers think that I'm talking about software, you know, like a software system. And while that sometimes is the case, more times than not, what I'm speaking about is a system that we're putting inside of your law firm. Remember, systems should run your law firm, and people should run your systems. Now, that's not to say that we don't need excellent people. We do. But we don't want to rely on excellent people. I don't know how many times, well, it's happened to you, but I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. I have been disappointed by people. I have been disappointed by circumstances in people's lives because they have to leave. They no longer jive with what's going on in my office. They go bad, whatever. And so I've been disappointed by them, and I found that I needed to develop systems that run my business, not people. There are 3 steps to any one system. Now, this is where you want to grab a pen and a paper. If you're driving, don't. But if you're in your office, you know, just real quick, put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Shut down, you know, any other email programs you're working on. Close your door. Put Do Not Disturb on for just a couple of minutes. We're not going to be long at this, but I promise you the time that you're going to invest with me breaking this down for you is going to be more valuable than anything else you're doing. I don't say that because I wonder. I now say that because I know. So let's talk about investing in this system. And what I mean by investing in the system is thinking about what pieces or ingredients you're going to need. And you're going to need 3 ingredients. You're going to need to understand that any good system has a harvesting component, it has an inspection by report component, and it has an automation component. Now, I'll define these for you really quickly. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. I just want you to know that this is the fundamental principles of a system. So every single system has a way that we harvest all of the information about every single thing every single time. So in this particular case today, we're going to be talking about a lead conversion machine, which means we want to make sure we're harvesting every single piece of information about every single lead every single time. I'll define this for you more in a little bit, but this is where we keep our data. Now, harvesting can be as simple as pen and paper. It can be as complicated as a CRM system that you're using with software. It could be your matter management system, but in this particular case, it's probably not just your matter management system, because typically that doesn't take over until they become a client. I'm talking about something that starts harvesting every single lead. Again, we'll talk about more about that in a second. The second part of a system is inspection by report. So my grandfather used to say, you inspect what you expect, right? There are three things that happen in a business. The first is what the owner wants to be happening. The second is what the owner thinks is happening. And the third is what's actually happening, right? And so we need to inspect by report. So you can't have a system unless you have an inspection process for that system. We're going to talk about that today. And the third is automation. Now, for today, we're going to put automation on the shelf because it's a big topic. So we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to really help you build the first initial steps of the system. But know that here's my definition of automation. Automation is that someone or something, and these are the key words, other than the owner of the law firm is actually building and running this system. Now, it could be software or it could be a person. But the way that we have to automate a system is to make sure the owner doesn't do it. I can't get you freedom if you're the one who has to do all the work and be the lawyer and meet with new prospective clients and run the business. There's no way for you to gain your freedom if I don't get you to automation. But I can't get you to automation until you understand the fundamental steps of this particular system. So these are in every system, whether we're talking about lead conversion, lead generation, if we're talking about matter management, if we're talking about staff management or team management, whatever is the system we're talking about, these three steps exist. So keep that in your mind as we're talking about these systems. Now, this is my brain on a law firm, okay? So if you were to, this is how my original, and I mean original, 10 years ago, mind map that I created to kind of show what the flow was of the lead conversion machine. Now, we're not going to dive into this and confuse you. I just want you to know that it's not just simple, okay? It's got complex moving parts, but we are going to boil this down and make this very, very simple for you today. So this is where you want to, again, grab that pen and paper and start writing, because we're going to talk about what we call the perfect client life cycle. All right, so inside the lead conversion system, we're basically saying to ourselves, all right, we're already generating leads. How do we convert those leads into a client who pays their bill and refers us additional business? And so when we think about the system, the first thing we have to think about is the number of leads. So when we're thinking about harvesting, the first thing we're doing is harvesting every single piece of information about every single lead every single time. Now, the way that we do that is just by putting a set of discipline in place that says anytime the phone rings, an email comes in, a chat service goes off, whatever, anytime that happens, we start, we have to make sure we harvest that information. I see there's a chat widget. Just want to make sure that I'm not getting dinged by anybody. Good. We're in good shape. Fantastic. All right. So the next thing that we want to talk about is the stage after lead generation. Now, most of you, once they come in as a lead, we are going to want to convert them over to appointment. So it's important that we get the number of leads that come into our law firm on any particular day, week, or month. Now, for the purpose of today, we're going to be talking about a month's period of time. Okay, we're going to talk about measuring this over a month's period of time, and we're going to measure how many leads came in, and we're going to harvest their full name, their email address, their phone number, their cell phone number. We are going to get all of the information about every single lead. Quick story. I was talking to an attorney who I'd met for the first time the other day, and I said, how many leads do you have? And he said, well, let me go to my appointment calendar and count them. And he counted the number of appointments that were set for this week. And I said, no, you skipped a step. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're counting appointments. What about all the people who don't set an appointment? And he said, oh, we don't track those. You see, that's a hole in the perfect client lifecycle, the lead conversion system. If we're not harvesting the data on all of the leads, whether they set an appointment or not, we're not harvesting all of the data. Now, to be clear, these are qualified leads. And depending on your practice area, the more qualified, the more important. But these are qualified leads. But regardless, there were leads that were qualified in this person's firm that he wasn't tracking. The next we're going to count is the number of leads that convert over to an appointment. Now, some law firms say to me, well, we don't set appointments. We actually try to retain the clients over the phone. So right then and there, we transfer them over to an attorney or a non-attorney, and they try to retain them right over the phone. Well, that's fine. I'm not going to argue semantics. In this particular scenario, that means every lead that came in that you transferred over to somebody to have an appointment, to have a live call with them right then, was also an appointment. So we're going to count it as an appointment. We still need to know this number, because what I find in many law firms that don't use appointments and they try to retain over the phone, if they transfer the lead from one person to the next, they oftentimes lose some of those leads in the transfer. But basically what we're going to do is count the number of appointments that we set. Okay, so first we count the leads, then we're counting the number of appointments that we set, which means we have to know fundamentally which leads turned into appointments. The next is we're going to identify how many of them showed, right? How many of them showed to their appointment. And so the reason why this is important is because just because they set an appointment doesn't mean that they showed to the appointment. So in Phoenix, where I built the law firm, it's a very, very geographically huge area. So 45, 50 miles across, maybe longer. So we were somewhat in the east side of the valley. So when somebody called us from the west side of the valley, some 35 miles away, the likelihood of them showing up to their appointment was less than 20%. We knew that the people who showed up inside of the of Mesa area where we were, the likelihood of them showing up was north of 75%. And so we needed to know what we were paying attention to with the number of shows that we had based on our geography. There are other reasons why the show rate is affected, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now, just know that we're measuring how many people actually showed. Then we're going to measure, of the people who showed, how many of them retained the firm. Now, most attorneys that I talk to that meet with their clients on their own, when I ask them this question, I say, how many of the people that you meet with hire the firm? The general answer I always get, I'd imagine you would guess, is just about everybody. Just about everybody retains. If they meet with me, if I meet with them, they retain my firm. That's typically what I hear. But when we run the real numbers, we find that that's not necessarily the case. So these are the number of people who retain the firm, not just retain at the point of consult, but who retain whether they come back later and retain at another time. Although we are trying to get people to retain at the point of consult. Getting paid. This is the stage at which the people who we did the work for and we're invoicing, depending on how your cases work, whether you're paid before you do the work, you're paid after you do the work, everybody's different in different practice areas. How many of them that hired the firm pay their bill in full? So what's our realization rate? If we billed out $1,000, how much of the $1,000 did we collect? And that's a really important number, because some firms are collecting as little as 60%. The really, really good firms are collecting above 93%, okay? So the question is, how do we maximize getting paid? And then finally, how do we obtain referrals? How do we make sure that the clients who we served and who paid their bill in full are happy with us? And how many of them refer us business? So this is, of the clients who retained us, how many of them came as a referral? Whether they came as a referral from another client or they came as a referral from an allied service professional like another attorney or an accountant or mental health professional, whatever, that's how we know what our referral rate is. We count the number of people who hired our firm that came in from referrals. So we're kind of measuring that to see the overall health of how we're serving our clients and how we're doing with micromanaging the client experience, which we'll talk about at another day at another time. So let me kind of show you this visually here, okay? So this is what your perfect client life cycle looks like. So if I take, you can see we've got the top section here has the lead generation, then the appointment, then the show, then they become a client, then they pay their bill, and then the satisfied clients then refer you business, right? And that's the general path of what we call the perfect client life cycle. And I've identified these 6 steps. Now, I just want to go a step further, and I want you to know that this worksheet, right? This worksheet is got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 steps. Because what happens is we want to see, okay, of the number of new leads and the number of appointments, what percentage of them set, right? So how many of the new leads that we have, how many of them set, and what is that as a percentage? And then of the people who set, what percentage showed? And then of the people who showed, what percentage hired? And then of the people who hired, what percentage paid their bill in full? And then of the people that paid their bill in full and hired, what percentage came in as a referral? And then you can see there's another line down here that actually asks, well, how much did you spend on marketing? And so what was your total cost per lead? Which basically says, if I'm looking at this in a month period of time, how much did I spend in marketing over this time? How many new leads did I get? Divide that into my marketing cost. That's what it cost me per lead. How much did it cost me per appointment? Same math, just with appointments. How much did it cost me per show? Same math, just with shows. And how much did it cost me per client? Same math, just per client. So what this sheet does, so here's the bottom line for what this sheet does. Attorneys come to me all the time and say, I want to make more money. And I say, okay, what do you think we need to do for you to make more money? And they usually say one of two things to me. They usually say either, well, I just need more clients and I'd get more money. Or they're astute and they're a marketer and they say, I just need more leads and I get more money. And I say, okay, that may be true, but let's find out if it's true. You see, if you want to know what's really going on in your practice, and you start to measure your practice the way I just suggest that you do using the perfect client lifecycle over a period of a month, you'll now be able to come in and when you say, I want to make more money, you can see do I need more leads? Well, I don't know. What percentage is setting appointments? What percentage is showing up to our door? What percentage of them is hiring the firm? What percentage of them is paying their bill in full? And what percentage is coming from referrals? You see, once we know that information, we can determine whether we need more leads. If we're converting at very high rates, and by the way, I get this question all the time. What should this be? I'll answer that if you have a question about it in the Q&A. If you have a specific question about your practice area, I'll answer about it. But know that the answer is it depends. It depends on your practice area. It depends on your geography. It depends on whether they come in from referrals or they come in from paid lead sources. It depends on what those lead sources are. So it does depend, but on an average, are we setting a high percentage of our appointments or our leads into appointments, like 80% or more? Are they showing at a high rate, like 70% or more? Are they hiring at a high rate, like 60% or more? Are they paying their bill in full at a high rate, like 85% or more? Are they referring other people? Are they coming in as referral from them or other referral sources, like at a percentage of 30% or more? If the answer to that question is yes, well, yeah, you need more leads. But if any of these things are off, before we gave you more leads, we should pay attention on what we can do to increase the conversion at each one of these stages. Because if you're converting at a lousy point at any one of these stages, giving you more leads would be a sin, because we're just going to waste them because we're not converting at the right amount. See, this perfect client lifecycle gives you transparency inside of your business, and it allows you to determine what's working and what's not working. Sometimes when you need more money, all of this is working and you have leads, but you've got other issues with getting paid, like you're not charging enough, which is a whole nother conversation that maybe Chelsea and I do at another time. But know that this system is what gives you clarity. Now, I've talked about harvesting, okay? And I want to give you an easy tool. I told you I was going to make this easy for you, and I am. I don't care whether you have a fancy CRM or you have pen and paper. Here's what I think you should do, all right? I think you should start by using this simple spreadsheet, all right? This simple spreadsheet basically just puts their information in, name, rank, and serial number, first name, last name. We're going to get their address, their phone number, all that stuff. And then we're just going to identify true or false. Did they set an appointment or not? Did they show to their appointment or not? Did they retain the firm or not? And it's going to work all the way through the perfect client lifecycle. And we're just going to start by using a simple Google Drive document. Now, if you want, incidentally, this sheet, you can go here and get it, or you can just email me. When I say here, if you're listening to this, you can't see. It's therichardjames.com/PCLC, Perfect Client Lifecycle, PCLC hyphen, thank you, TY. It's a little complicated of a link if you're not in front of your computer. So the other easier way to do it is just email me, richard@therichardjames.com. I'll send it to you for free. No catch, no nothing. So I'm happy to send it to you, no problem. And it's basically just an Excel spreadsheet. Now, I suggest you put it in Google, like a Google document, because multiple people can share it, all right? But here's my point. In order to harvest and inspect, you have to have a place where you're putting all this. Pen and paper is messy, and software is great, but it's complicated, and it usually takes a long time for your staff to adjust. A simple spreadsheet, by making a rule that says Betty, who answers your phone, from this point forward has to enter every single lead and every single piece of information about every single lead into this system every single time for a month, would be a great start for you to see where you're at. That's my challenge to you. Let's just start by entering this information into this sheet. Now, let me try to inspire you why this is so important, okay? Like, this is great, and you may get it, you may not. It may be too much information for you to digest right now. You may be having 6 questions deep that I haven't answered for you yet. Whatever is going on for you. Some of you are going to get it really quickly. Some of you are going to just be still thinking about what I said till a later time. Some of you are fast implementers and you want to dive right in. But let me try to inspire all of you why this is so important. So here is a basic sheet that looks at these numbers, right? So we're looking at leads in column B. We're looking at leads, sets, shows, hires, average case value. So what I've identified after working with thousands and thousands of attorneys throughout my career now, that if I look at the average attorney, about every 4 weeks, they're generating about 100 leads, right? This is kind of like the average firm that comes through my doors. They're generating about 100 leads. And they'll set maybe 70 of those leads. They'll set about 70 of those leads into appointments. And then about 42 of those 70 will actually show for the appointments. About 60% is what we're finding on average. And then about 42% hire. That's the big aha moment for most attorneys, by the way. It's not 100%. I mean, if you're a full referral firm and all you get is referrals and you only do business by referrals and you don't have more than a couple clients coming in every single week or prospects, it's possible you're at 100% because you're all by referrals. But if you're out there paying for leads and you're generating 100 leads a month, most of those aren't coming from referrals, you'll find that most of your leads are converting at about 42% without some really good training. I could be wrong, but this is what I found on average. Again, let's not go to the bell curve, but on average, that's what we find to be true. And all I suggest is that we just increase by 4% in each category. So I just want to say, okay, I want to set more appointments. What can I do to set more appointments? How can I move that number by 4%? Okay, I want to get more people to show to the appointment. What can I do to just move that by 4%? I want to get more people to retain me in the consult room. What can I do to move that by 4%? If I just take that attitude and take really, really small bites of the apple, most people admit moving by 4% is just not a big deal. And we keep the same $2,500 client value. We don't change the client value at all. We don't raise prices. What that means is we went from 70 to 74. We went from 42 to 47. We went from 18 to 22. Or fundamentally, we hired 4 new clients in a month without adding any more leads. We kept the leads the same. See, 100, 100. All we did was affect these little hinges that swing the big doors, and we generated 4 new clients. 4 new clients. 4 new clients every single month is an additional $10,000 a month. Because you've learned how to do this, you will now maintain this every single month going forward. And this information feeds you for a lifetime. And over the course of a year, this little 4% with these averages generated $120,000 in gross sales to your law firm. That's how we start to acquire freedom. You can do an awful lot with an extra 120 grand in your firm. If you're doing an average of $540,000 a year and you take it to $660,000 a year and you don't add any additional expenses because you shouldn't have to, and you just make some carburetor adjustments in the way that you're doing things to move the needle a little bit, you can do an awful lot to help you achieve the freedom. One, maybe you can take a salary for the first time ever. Or maybe you can hire the help that you need to get the work done so that you can start working on your business rather than in your business. Or three, maybe you'll be able to start saving for retirement or taking that vacation that you actually wanted to take but couldn't because you pay yourself just enough to cover your bills at home. 120 grand means a lot. Now, by the way, if your firm is doing 10 times 100 leads a month, well, you know what the math is going to reveal. If your firm is doing less than 100 leads a month, just ratchet this down. Now, I can send you this sheet as well. Just email me, richard@therichardjames.com. Happy to send this, what I call my 100 lead worksheet to you. And so you can play with this for yourself. But the reality is that you want to do this for yourself. Because if you want to gain your freedom, if you want to get out of chaos, we have to start to generate profits. And before we get all hung up in, oh, Richard James is all about money, Richard James is all about money. Listen, we're in business to be profitable, but that's not why I care about profits. I care about profits because I believe profits will allow you to help more people. You see, if you make $120,000 more, it's likely that you're going to start asking yourself a question like, how can I generate more leads? How can I take some of this $120,000 and how can I start generating more leads? And if you start generating more leads, you're going to start and keep the conversions the same, which you will. You'll start converting more clients. If you start converting more clients, you're helping more people. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question that I already know the answer to. But on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being, not really all that much, and 10 being, yeah, heck yeah, I think that way. Do you believe that if a client or prospect walks into your office and needs your services would actually help them change their life, that they should choose your firm? Most of you are going to say a 9 or a 10, that yeah, you believe they should choose your firm because you're the very best at what it is you do. If you don't believe that, by the way, we have to start there. But let's assume you do believe that. If you believe that's true, then that means that anybody going to hire any other firm besides yours is not getting what they truly need. They're not being served at their highest and best value. Which means by doing what I said and converting more through the perfect client lifecycle, generating more topside gross revenue and reinvesting some of that gross revenue to generating more leads, you're better serving your community. Now, folks, I don't want to get gushy on you. I believe you're the heroes of your community. Yeah, I know there's a lot of attorney jokes out there, okay? But the reality is that's the people who don't know the truth. That's the people who have never been helped, truly helped, by an attorney get out of a really difficult bind. That's not the guy or gal you served last week and saved their house, saved their car, got their kids back for them, got them an estate plan for a child who's of special needs, took care of their marital divorce in a way that got them a maximum result, got them a benefit from their PI case or their workers' comp case or social security case and gave them a check that they would not have otherwise had. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of who you are or what you do, even if you're business litigation attorney, and businesses make fun of lawyers all the time, but if you helped an attorney either successfully defend, or if you helped a business successfully defend themselves, or you helped a business sue somebody who wronged them and you got a favorable outcome, you changed their life for the better, regardless of what your invoice says. And that's why you're the heroes of your community. And that's why I want you to be better at what you do, to gain your freedom. And I don't mean better what you do as a lawyer. I mean better what you do as a business owner, as somebody who is an entrepreneurial-minded attorney who wants to gain their freedom. I want you to achieve this because I promise you, you deserve it. So with that, Chelsea, I'm come to the end. We can answer any questions if anybody has them. But if you want to know more, if you want some information, even a free copy of my book, you can go to therichardjames.com/PPGP, and you can schedule some time with us. My team will invest time with you and look at your perfect client lifecycle as it pertains to you, and really peel back the onion of your practice. That's our first step in our world to see if what we do even makes sense for you. The first step is really scheduling an appointment with us. But again, if you want anything else, if you want a free copy of the book, or you want any of the resources I talked about today, just email me, richard@therichardjames.com, and I'll happily send it to you. No worries, no obligations, no nothing. This is not a sales pitch. This was me giving freely. I hope that I brought some clarity for you today and help you understand how to get your practice in your life from chaos to freedom. My name is Richard James, and I have a great time helping you build your law firm better, one system at a time.
Thank you so much, Richard. And so we'll be including some information in the follow-up email from today, which also includes a link to the recording. I encourage you to also share that recording with anyone else that you think would benefit from Richard's message and all of these free resources that he's provided. I have a copy of his book on my desk next to me right now. I've read it multiple times, and it's a great resource, really simple, quick, easy read. You can do it in an hour or so, and
we call it a shook. It's a really short book. We call it a shook. As a matter of fact,
I love that.
I'll even send them a CD. If they don't like to read and they don't have time, they can put the CD in their car or download it to their phone or whatever, and they can listen to it. Because attorneys don't oftentimes read a lot as a general whole, because they read so much in their daily life that I find they don't read books a lot. But it is a short book.
It's I mean, super short. I don't have a page. Oh yeah, I mean, we're under 60 pages here, and it is quick. It's also quick because you move through these systems, and I mean, I've read it twice now, and each time I pick up something that I can apply to my business, or you work on, what you can apply the first round, and then after you get that in place, you start moving into the second phase. So get the book, take advantage of Richard's free resources. We'll include those in a summary of today's session. And then for anybody that has questions, go ahead and enter them into the questions pane. Are the slides going to be available? Richard, would you mind sharing those with everybody if we provide your email address in that follow-up email?
Yeah, for sure. Happy to send the slides.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time today. And then for everyone who is on this afternoon session, you can go to the URL here on the screen, book that appointment time with Richard James, and get a copy of the book. If absolutely nothing else, it really, really is something that is eye-opening, no matter if you're just getting started or you've been practicing for quite some time. Richard, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I look forward to the next webinar that we have coming up in the series.
Sounds great, Chelsea. I really appreciate you having me on today. This is always a blast for me, and I appreciate everybody for attending. Hope that I gave them some clarity. Look forward to seeing them next time.
Yes, talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.